A comment and then a question. The first comment is it is really wonderful to hear your passionate defense today for Malaysian democracy, and that we can feel reassured that the struggle for democracy in Malaysia is going to be strong because of leaders like you. My question is about the selection of candidates for the different constituencies. These are normally determined after the election is announced. Wouldn't it be a good idea to settle all the constituency issues, name the candidates for each of the constituencies well before the election, so that the start of the election campaign is not jeopardized by this scrambling around and debates and arguments among different candidates? It does detract from the unity of the Pakatan Raya.
And your question is, there was a comment, was it?
The second one, there was a question, is why don't we select the candidates earlier?
Well, I think that is a very good suggestion. I would have loved to see, probably a year before the actual election, all the candidates have been finalized in all the constituencies. It did happen to a certain extent in this election, the 10th election, because our formula was whoever contested, whichever party contested in the last election 2008, and had they won that place, then automatically that place be accorded to them again. So we knew the candidate, right? Now to make sure that a year or two before the election we have already determined the candidate, that will be a little bit difficult on our part. Primarily because, number one, our candidates only work in the areas where they originally come from. Okay? I take the example of Tapa. Somebody said Tapa just now. Tapa, Parliament has been accorded to keadilan. And all this while, they do not have a local candidate to propose. And they've been putting all foreign candidates, foreign meaning outside Tapa. Right? And it was difficult for them to achieve victory that place. Now, that can only be done if at all we have a candidate coming from that area, particularly state seats. Now, the weakness is that we do not have credible candidates coming from that area. Had it been that candidate residing there, then that will be a bonus for us. Okay? So I'll take into your suggestion that we would like to determine as early as possible the candidate for that constituency, so he or she can work very well already. People will know her. So it will be a plus point, rather than having her or him at the last moment. Okay. But sometimes that scenario happened because even within Pakatan, we could not resolve whether that particular seat will be contested by DAP, keadilan or PAS. And this normally happens in Sabah and Sarawak. So until and unless you finalize who is supposed to contest under what ticket, then you cannot finalize the candidate. Now, for the first time in Malaysian history, PAS put up a non-Malay candidate under PAS ticket to show that we are together with the people. This has never happened in MCA, MIC and UMNO. UMNO will never fill a Chinese candidate under his ticket. MCA will never fill a non-Chinese candidate under his ticket. MIC will never offer a non-Indian candidate under his ticket. But PAS offered a Chinese to contest under PAS ticket. It did happen in the last election. We had Hu Pang Chow contesting against Wee Chi Kiong, a minister in Aitam. He lost, unfortunately. We had Komata Devi contesting under our ticket, PAS ticket in Johor. She lost. We had Richard Wong contesting under PAS ticket in Pahang. He lost as well. In Melaka, he lost as well. Likewise, DAP. DAP fielded Malay, Chinese, and even a progeny candidate. And keadilan, obviously, they actually fielded all the other races as well. So meaning that Pakatan Rakyat did reflect one Malaysia. And not UMNO, not MCA, MIC. Sad to say that. So meaning that that candidate, on our part, even we can have more flexibility compared to Bangsa Nasional. So thank you, Bhagwan, Shukriya, for your suggestion. I'll take that into note. In Perak, at least we impose that in Perak first. Thank you so much.
Any other questions from the floor? There's a question in the back. We'll come back to you in a second.
Hi, I think one of Barisan's biggest weapons is the gerrymandering. And also, I think most of Pakatan's support is coming from the urban voters. So you have that urban and rural divide. So like you've got 100,000 people in the urban areas, but then you've got all these small rural areas with small numbers. So, so that's a very advantage to Pakatan, that gerrymandering. So does Pakatan have a strategy to deal with that? Or, I don't know, is there anything that we as people who live in those constituencies can do? Like, is there something that we can do to change the delineation of those borders or things like that? Thank you.
Well, thank you for that very good question. In terms of delineation of the constituency, if that process does not involve amendments to the number of seats in the respective legislative assembly at state or even in parliament, then it can be actually carried out by the election commission themselves. But if that change of constituency involve an amendment to the number of seats, then you must get the clearance of the parliament, which means there must be a 2/3 majority supporting that motion. So far, the delineation process shall be happening this year, which means in the next election, there will be change in some of the constituencies. But if this intended change now involves an increase or decrease in number of state or parliament seats, then obviously it has to be moved in the House of Parliament for a vote because it involves an amendment in number of seats. If it doesn't, then it's okay. So our bigger worries now is that they might gerrymandering the whole thing without even changing the number of seats. What you said was exactly right. All states, parliament seats, where Pakatan enjoyed big majority victory. Compared to UMNO or BN, they contested in many parliament seats in Sabah, Sarawak, comprising only of 12,000 voters with one member of parliament. Whereas a Pakatan Rakyat candidate in the parliament of Kapar in Selangor, his voters was 145,000, also with one member of parliament. Now where is fairness, where is justice? When it comes to Pakatan Rakyat, we need 100 over 1,000 voters for us to qualify for one member of parliament. Whereas in BN it's not necessary. You go to Putrajaya, you only have 15,000 registered voters. And the one that came out voting was only 12,000. So they enjoyed one member of parliament with just 12,000 voters. Whereas we have to scramble a lot of fun, money, effort and time to convince 144,000 voters to vote for us. So we are always on the losing end. We are victimized to it. So what we are proposing to the parliament now is that rather than having first past the post system, let us have a proportional representation system. Which means that if 25,000 represent one parliament seat, therefore if you have 145,000 there, you should be entitled to 3 or 4 parliament seats. Now the reason why UMNO has been against this all the time, because they knew damn well, if they increase the seat of Kepung, comprising 94,000 candidates, to 4 parliament, all the 4 will be taken by DAP. If they increase the number of seats in Baling, 99,000 voters in Baling, if they increase it to 4 parliament seats, all the 4 will be taken by PAS. So they might as well do only with 1 parliament seat. That is complete injustice. And we have been facing that for many election period already. So this time around, we are saying that, look, you can delineate. If it's not involving increase in seats, then we want to interfere and say, look, Kapar, you must divide into 4 parliament seats. Increase it another 3 or 4. Likewise in Kota Raja, in Kepong, Puchong, Shah Alam and the rest. And I'm sure they already know that if they increase those seats in those parliament, definitely Pakatan Rakyat will enjoy it. Because all those voters that live within the satellite areas of any cities, they voted for Pakatan Rakyat. Studies have been made by University of Malaya. They discovered that all areas which have accessible of Wi-Fi and even broadband, the number of voters that voted process is exactly the same when you superimpose that. You superimpose the studies where areas covered by broadband and Wi-Fi throughout Malaysia, and the areas where the voters supported Pakatan Rakyat that we won, when you superimpose it exactly the same. Meaning to say that any areas which have access to alternative media through internet, then the chances for them to vote Pakatan Rakyat is strong and big. So more so, we would like to give free Wi-Fi to the whole nation, like 1A gave to Penang. And we are still not enjoying that. Even though you are in Kuala Lumpur, you just go to Gombak, which is just 10 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur, you hardly get any Wi-Fi services anymore. Unless we hotspots, yeah? So meaning that it is them who actually deliberately prevent the enhancing of internet services throughout the nation. Because they knew very well if they do that, then it is suicidal for them. But Pakatan Rakyat, we believe that the public have got the right for internet so that they can have alternative media. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another question in front.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. You did mention that the BN got 14 parties. This on the question of logo, and the opposition has only 3. So what are the 14 parties that the BN has? Long list, is it?
All laptop only.
I can only count up to 6.
Well, the other lesser important parties, they are mosquito party, they call it. They exist in Sabah and Sarawak. Because Sabah and Sarawak have got a lot of clans, Aboriginal clans. And each of those clans have got their own respective political parties. Parti Dayak Sabah, Parti Kaum Iban. And those are the components of BN. Now BN would like to expose the public that we are one Malaysia because we have 14 parties. Therefore, we are much more one Malaysia compared to you do. But let me just tell you, the whole of that 14, UMNO is a dominant brother, big brother, yeah. And the rest are all lapdogs of UMNO, including MCA.
Yep. Yeah.
So it would be a great shame now. Gerakan is defunct, MCA is on the verge of collapse. So what is left with BN is only UMNO. Right? The rest of the other smaller parties, Sabah, Sarawak, Parti Dayak, Parti Dusun, they are small ones that are completely subservient to BN. But one thing I can assure you, even all Putrajaya, BN collapse, those mosquito parties, without us requesting, they're flying to our side. Because they know very well that their future rests on the party that holds the power. So they will come to whoever is controlling Putrajaya. Right? And that is quite scary to be in. Okay?
A question in front.
It'll be good if we can. I would announce something.
YB, thank you very much for your speech just now. I have always been greatly impressed watching you over YouTube. and you just impressed me a lot. I'm a voter from Taiping.
Thank you.
Okay, now given the points that you made about gerrymandering, BR, BRIM, Project IC, and voting slips, and all the irregularities, what is, knowing all this, and some of which, well, most of it, probably Pakatan cannot do anything, but what is the strategy of Pakatan in order to counter all these disadvantages that obviously that you have?
That's a good strategy. Yeah. What's ahead of us now in these coming 4 or 5 years, and what are we supposed to do? We know very well that the weakest part on our part to get the support is from the kampung folks, particularly those settlers in Felkra, Felda, Rista, whatever you name it. So our strategy this time for 4 or 5 years that DAP leaders have committed that we shall be with PAS in your remote Malay villages. Because previously DAP only concentrated on town force, not coming together with PAS on the remote areas. But of late they realized that they should also present themselves as Pakatan Rakyat. So now you see a lot of move within the AP leaders for them to be together with PAS leaders in far remote villages. You can find when a Malay family, either in grief or in happiness, then DAP leaders will be together with us. Never has a history in Perak where DAP leaders attended a Malay funeral function, especially in Kampong. But this time around, because they are the member of parliament there, so they make it a point when there is any death, any funeral services, do contact us and they will be there first time. So that has been a change there. Likewise with PAS leaders as well. Many of them have not attended Chinese funeral in town before. So now we are attending with DAP heads and the Chinese leaders in Keadilan. Together we make ourselves present in those areas. That's one point. Second point, we have Androided. We have used Android system to get ourselves across to all the sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters of those parents that are still settler in Felda and Felkra. In Perak we have 4 settler schemes. All of these 4 are UMNO fixed deposits. They are in Tanjung Malim, in Lenggong, in Larut, as well as in Greek, and a bit in Parit. Now once those areas become Felda schemes, then they have a fixed deposit there. We wanted to go into those areas with campaign period, they blocked us. So with this Android system, we know who their sons and daughters are, who are either working in factories outside that remote areas, who are either students studying in either overseas or higher institutional learning in the town. We contacted them. We either meet them through Facebook, tweets, as well as meeting them personally by handphones and SMS, hoping that they will transmit this information to their parents when they go back during vacation. And that has created a lot of impact. We got reports, many parents who are hardcore UMNO supporters, but they have got sons and grandsons studying abroad or outstation. When they came back to their respective houses, they convinced their grandfathers and grandmothers that it will no more with UMNO anymore. So they have got a record that they shifted in this election, they changed to Pakatan Rakyat. One example was my mother. She was a hardcore UMNO supporter right from the beginning. But because she had 13 siblings, each and every one of us, whenever we go back home, we told our mother, no more with UMNO, no more with the end. At the end, she was convinced, even though PAS did not contest in her area, only DAP contested in Kampar, she voted for Kampar DAP candidate for the first time in her life. And she felt so happy, she told me. When she voted for BN last time, I wasn't happy. So that was the message, that was the strategy that we did in order to have some form of an inch and engagement into those remote areas.
Bring the rural Malay to Penang, all that.
Including?
We bring the rural Malay.
Do you know that there was a scheme that was made by DAP at one point, because many Chinese were not convinced of what PAS did in Kelantan. By virtue of the bad information, by virtue of the propaganda created by MCA leaders. MCA leaders were saying to Chinese communities in the West Coast, they say that the Chinese in Kelantan can't even eat pork. They cannot freely drink now. So those negative perceptions were made by MCA in Kelantan. So finally DAP contacted all their voters who came from MCA background. He said, free trip to Kelantan. 2 nights and 1 day. PAS offered services. And they went to Kelantan, they met Ning Aziz, they met the ESCO member, they stayed in Kelantan hotels, and the first thing that they were served were bakote. As soon as they arrived in Kota Baru, they were served bakote. And after that, at night, they had some beer as well. So where is that message by MCA saying that these are not available in Kelantan? So that trip wiped out the whole of the negative things. So now we are emulating that exactly. We are bringing the Malays from kampongs in throughout Malaysia, particularly in Perak, to go and visit Penang, because UMNO did the same trick like what MCA did. They said Lim Guan Eng closed all the malls in Penang. They went to the Malays in Perak. Lim Guan Eng closed all the malls in Penang. You cannot pronounce the prayers in the mosque in Penang anymore. And furthermore, they even created stories like DAP closed all the graveyard of the Muslims in Penang. So we took initiative. We gave them free bus trip, 3 days and 2 nights. Let's go to Penang and see for yourself. For the first thing we did, as soon as we arrived in Penang, we brought them to the main mosque in Penang and heard the prayers being pronounced openly without any restriction. And then we took them to areas where there were a lot of wrong stories told by UMNO. And finally the Malays opened their minds as well. So those strategies, we actually interpolate them again as what DAP did to MCA supporters going to Kelantan. Now we're doing that same exercise to the Malays going to Penang. You know, they say you cannot practice Buddha. Religion is not allowed in Kelantan. Now DAP brought these MCA voters to Kelantan, to Tumpat. They not only see the deities, they not only see the statue of Buddha. They saw statue of Buddha standing, sleeping, and lying. Nobody disturbed him.
And the biggest one.
And that was the biggest in South Asia. It's in Tumpat. Nick Aziz didn't even touch all those Buddha deities. So why are you talking about MCA that we stop people from praying or whatever? It's nonsense. We are facing that situation in Malaysia now. Allah. Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, it's fairly gloomy outside as well. We may take a few more questions, then finish up the formal session, then we can have sort of informal chit-chat, meet and greet, and then we can call it a day. So just last few questions.
Let's just make one last observation. I understand that PAS lost in Kedah. What is your take on it, and what went wrong?
Marvelous question. I must say that it's our mistake. It's our internal squabbling, our internal breaking, internal bickerings that have caused us to lose Sabah, to lose Kedah. You know, I'm not actually putting my fingers against others. It is actually our fault. You know, we did not present a presentable management quality management. Even quality administration of the state. So I must admit, it was our internal squabbling and bickerings that have caused us to lose Sabah. It's an expensive event, but we have to face it. We learned tremendous lessons out of that. The togetherness of Pakatan Rakyat, DAP, PAS, Keadilan was not like it was in Selangor, Perak, even in Pahang and Johor. Sad to say, unfortunately, because we met in Perak almost every week. 3 from each party, so that we can always remind each other, always monitor each other's movement. So we are on the toe all the time. But back in Kedah, we did not have records to show that Pakatan Rakyat had any meetings even for 1 month or 2 months. So the togetherness was not actually shown, physically or whatever. So that was actually a mistake by us, and we have to admit it, and we have to repair ourselves so that it will not happen again. So thank you for that question, and I must admit our mistake, and we have to apologize for that as well.
It's Kevin here. So what are you doing about that to unite the people in Kedah and the different parties in Kedah, the bickerings and stuff like that? What are you doing to fix it?
Okay, from that incident that we have lost Kedah, we have instituted a platform where Pakatan Rakyat in Kedah must be strengthened and must be made to meet each other. So that's point number 1, that they have to refer to all the decisions made by the Pakatan Rakyat President Council in Putrajaya or in Kuala Lumpur, so they will be abide by it. At least once a month there must be a meeting with it. Internally, PAS will have to identify who within those leadership in PAS that are more presentable, that are more acceptable by the Kedahan. Okay? So we have to identify, and then we discovered that we lost many of the parliament seats in Kedah as well, not just the state we lost many parliament seats. So now we have identified who are those that can play games with us. So we identified that. There's been a lot of sabotage within as well. And who are these individuals within who allowed that sabotage to take place? So those elements within past that we have to shift them, leave them out, that has been identified in the process of leaving them out. Have you heard about Hassan Ali?
Yes.
Those were the type of people that were with us, but at the same time they are actually giving information outside. So those elements, we sack them out of the party. And we are doing exactly the same in Kedah. If there are elements who are doing that, then we ask them to stay out of the party. And we have identified a few of them. Okay? So up to that extent, PAS will not be hesitant to even sack its own leaders or whoever they come from the moment we saw that they are not beneficial to PAS or affecting our relationship, we brush them off. Okay, thank you.
Two questions. There's a recent issue about the child conversion. What is PAS stand on that? I think the bill was introduced but quickly quashed because there are many opposition to it. We even within BN. What is PAS stand on that? And the second question is that if Pakatan takes power in Malaysia to form a government, will the members of parliament be free to vote according to their conscience, or will they be forced to toe the party line?
Good question. Number one, the bill on the custody of the kids until unless they are 18 depend on their parents. If this conversion, it has been actually withdrawn now because even within the end they couldn't come to a. They didn't come to an end. So that bill has been withdrawn. It will not be actually passed. The legislation will not be passed. But as far as PAS stand is concerned, we will stick by the federal constitution. Whatever is the rights of the parents and the rights of the children before they're 18, whatever is being spelled out in the constitution, then PAS will abide by it. That's our stand. Okay? So it so happened now that they have withdrawn the bill, it doesn't become an act anymore because they know very well that it will be strongly resisted by many Malaysians. Because in terms of the soul, it is not in line with the federal constitution. So PAS stand as it is now is we will abide by whichever section referring to the rights of the son in so long as they are within the age of 18, after which they've got the freedom to choose their own religion. So we'll abide by that. Okay. Secondly, regarding MPs towing the line. Now, Pakatan Rakyat has got that freedom. If, for instance, there is a bill to be discussed which is giving the benefit for all the Malaysians, then irrespective of which party you are, if you deem it to be the truth that will give benefit to the Malaysians, you have to support, you have to say yes, you have to say yes. Even though it is moved by the government. Likewise, if we know very well that we are moving a legislature which is not in tandem with the federal constitution, which we have to say no, then we expect our MP to say no to it as well. So that we have that freedom, that liberty for each member of parliament to exercise their own conscience without towing the party line, even though you know very well that that is truth and no other than truth. What happens now? Pakatan Rakyat move a big motion, which is nothing more than truth, but BN, when it comes to voting, they all tow party line against us. We do not want para-parliament to practice that stupid culture. We want them to practice a culture of understanding, trust, as well as mature democracy. That is our understanding now, within past JP Keadilan. Thank you. I'm going to be excused as well because the prayers time is at the end of the morning. So I'll be replaced by Raja Iskandar, who's the youth chief of Perak and also the federal. Can Iskandar come in? Continue with the Q&A. I'll come back later on. I just see
Are there any further questions?
Isam, we have to replace me and Rajesh Kanda.
Are there any further questions for?
Maybe some story about Selangor.
Yeah, it's like slight change of tone. Selangor. Any questions coming up for Selangor?
Anybody from? I heard there's one lady from Selangor.
I'm from Penang myself, so I mean, also
It doesn't matter.
anybody from Selangor out of any cute?
Give us an update on Selangor.
Oh, you want to hear?
An update on Selangor from what front?
Thank you very much for the President Nizar has to do the prayer. It's almost a Maghrib prayer, sunset already. As far as Selangor is concerned, you know very well, I think Selangor performed the best in the last general election. We have managed to increase from 36 seats to 44, leaving them with only 12 seats. And you know why? Because the cooperation or the cohesiveness among the three parties is very strong in Selangor, despite all the onslaught by Barisan Nasional. Iko Najib declared himself as the pengurusi Barisan, the chairman of the Barisan Nasional for Selangor, you know. For Selangor, made him a prime minister, and he's also a director for the election for Selangor. But once they lose in Selangor, he penalized the deputy. He himself scot-free. you know, did you realize or not? There's no minister post or deputy for Selangor at all after the general election, because he's so mad, he's so angry for the UMNO of Selangor, especially UMNO. He want to punish the UMNO, but he should punish himself because he's a director, election director for Selangor. But you know, and he's put a lot of effort, a lot of money, despite the onslaught and all the attack to Pakatan Rakyat of Selangor. In fact, daily you were to watch TV1, especially TV1 or TV3. But lucky for you, you are here. We had to face all that every day. Again and again and again, the jingle, the advertisement on Selangor, you know, sayangi yakini, sayangi Selangor, yakini BN. That one that's still ringing in my ears. Every night, every day, every single. You have to face that, torment. And but we managed to do well and much better. That's why I tell you, the most important tools against these people, these goons or these UMNO Barisan Nasional, is Pakatan Rakyat to be really united. And we actually finalized our seats allocation 2 years before the election in Selangor. And we have regular meeting almost weekly among the component party with the MB to strategize, to map out what we want to do for the people of Selangor. Almost 2 years in advance. That's why, despite the media problem that we face in Selangor, we still managed to do very well. Okay, let us look at what the pattern of the voting pattern last election in Selangor, and then we can I can mention something on what we plan to do right now until the next until the PRU the 14th. It's a 5-year plan. You know, last election I told them we first 3 years, we can't do much, because why we were cleaning all the mess. Now we got ample time, to really do something about it. Okay, the voting pattern, to say the Chinese tsunami. In some sense, there's some truth in the increase in number of Chinese support. That worries me also, Because why? The Chinese cannot go any higher. The only way is down. So that worries me. I hope the Chinese will stick to Pakatan Rakyat and maintain the level of support until the next election or future elections. Yeah. So I think everybody will agree with me on that. 1 minute. You want to ask question or what?
Not a question, more like a suggestion.
Give me a few more minutes. Let me brief a bit only, and then we open for questions. We are getting a very high support around 80% from Chinese. And I can tell you the new seats that PAS have won, because PAS have won the most in terms of percentage, because DAP from 13 to 15, I mean, it's not much. But PAS is from 8 to 15. That is almost 100% increase. If you get rid of Hassan Ali's one day, it's a 100% increase. And the area that we won, the new area, which is Payajaras, for example, we look at all the channels, and we found that the Malay channel all we lost, but not much, but still lost. But we win the non-Malay saluran channels. That's how we won Dusun Tua, Payajaras, Tanjung Sepat, and Morit. So that's what I said. But the difference in Malay support is not much. And again, we found out the youngsters, normally they are saluran 5, 5 or 6. The youngsters in the rural, in the urban area, they are fully supported us. But the worrying part is that when we look at the rural area, the saluran 5 and 6, we found out that they are voting for Bangsa Nasional. It's very worrying. I'm not worried about saluran 1 or 1 or 2. You know, these are old people, Malays. You know, we are traditionally always been a staunch supporter of Bangsa Nasional. But we worry now about the fines that we have to do something about it. The level of support from the Indian is surprisingly higher than we expect. Before the election, we were looking at 42-45%. We found that it has gone up to 52 to 55%. So very surprising. Thanks for the Indian support for Pakatan Rakyat. The Malay support as what we predicted. Before the election, many surveys were conducted by the independent body like Merdeka Center and UMSIDEL, University Malaya Center for Democracy and Election, and also we did also our own. The Malay support among the Barisan Nasional on Pakatan Rakyat is about at par. They are 34%, we are 33%. And 33% are actually the fence-sitters. A few months before election, in fact 1 month before election also the same. There's about 33% for Grab. But unfortunately, we managed only to grab 10% out of that. And the rest goes to Barisan Nasional. And most of them, I can assure you, I can tell you this, most of them are ladies. Ladies are the highest number of fence-sitters. And most of them goes to Barisan Nasional. That's why in terms of numbers, it's about the same, the ladies voters and the male voters. But the fence-sitters are higher among the ladies. That's why you can understand how they control the ladies, the BN, with all these programs out there. Yeah. So we have to put a lot more effort to the ladies in the next 4 years, and we are planning to do that to find out. But overall, I said I can tell you that we have performed quite well in the running of the state. There are some problems here and there, but you heard about it, in the newspaper. There's no point for me to hide the reason. But the commotion is not between so much between the Pakatan Rakyat. Is only internally in PKR. As far as Selangor is concerned, PAS and DAP already met earlier, and we agreed to extend the tenure of current MB. Simply to the fact, it's very simple. You send a general to war, and he fought bravely, and he won big, in the battle. Once he's back, do you slaughter him or not? I mean, it's unbecoming, in the eyes of the public, it's so ridiculous. In fact, it's cruel, So we decided to extend him, but with some modification and some improvement in terms of work. So he agreed. But somehow PKR have other agenda, other ideas, but they cannot do much, because this is the best thing about Pakatan Rakyat. It's not like I'm like Barisan, where I'm not had the last word. But we here, we are based on consensus. So if one party disagree on something, the other two will not do it. It has to be on consensus. That is the way to go forward.
Basis of unity.
Yeah, that is what. And then so far we managed to work it out. They're not happy with certain things that Tan Sri Khalid is doing, so they want a new replacement for the MB. But we told them our points. We gave them. We explained, And finally, after the Samhuha, the newspaper, we finally agreed to extend Tan Sri Khalid, and we have come up with a good lineup, with a good portfolio. And now we are planning for the long-term strategy. When I'm back, I think tomorrow or so, we're having that big meeting to come up with a strategy, especially to look into the rural Malays, as what Datuk Seri was saying just now, which is very critical. We didn't expect it to be that bad. You know. The fear is so much the fear. The BRIM can be one of the reasons, but the fear that the Malay will lose everything, the Chinese will take over, and that all these things is very difficult to address when they are being pounded every day, daily basis, in their home, in TV, with the TV3 and RTM, and newspaper, and we have no access. And correctly so, Datuk Seri mentioned just now, when we discussed with Universiti Malaya, they map up the internet usage in Malaysia, and they share it, the area of high penetration rate in terms of use of internet. Another one, Malaysia map, those who really supported PR, when they overlap it, it matches. It shows that if people are well informed all the time, they will vote for Pakatan Rakyat, because Pakatan, we know we are doing the right thing, you know. And it shows also in Selangor, area there where Syari Sungi, for example, he won the Ulu Kelang. Ulu Kelang is a rural area with 82%, and it's urban area. 82% Malays there, voters. He won it. It shows that the Malays are supporting. And also in Gombak, Azmin also won as parliament. It's 80% Malays. He won the seat. It's just that they are accessible to the information. So now we have to work all these ways how to actually go into their home, you know, all the time to explain, and we will figure out. I think that basically all I have to say. That is here already. Maybe you want to ask question about Selangor, right?
Yeah, Selangor.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, I want to give a suggestion. That's all right. I think because Selangor gets to Senate seat by virtue, and the Legislative Assembly can nominate to Senate seat, and I think I'd like to suggest that for the next appointment, that you all nominate Dr. Dizo, the former MP of I can't remember which parliament was it.
Kuala Selangor.
Yeah, Kuala Selangor, because I always get confused with Kuala Selangor and Ulu Selangor.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think he should remain as a member of the Dewan through Senate appointment, and I think he will do a good job, and especially in terms of that past image as well, because now that the MP is from Keadilan, you could use someone from Selangor that share the same national profile. Yeah. Thank you.
I thought you said you have two things to say. Comment on the
just
question.
one. The other one you already answered.
Okay. Oh, I'm very, very good at that. Can guess you what you're thinking. Okay, Dr. Zo, you know very well, Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, one of the prominent leaders from PAS. And he's done very well in Kuala Selangor. He's one of PAS think tank, you know. And he's done very well. And unfortunately, he lost out in Kuala Selangor because of one don there. By virtue, I was telling you, the Malay worriness in Cherab, it was one of the don there, pulled down all the results there, and he lost by 340 votes. And of course, there's a lot of, like in Perak also, we have detected fraudulence and especially the giving out, not there's the BRIM now this time, it's a real giving out the money cash. Extra, you know, maybe bring 3, 4, 4 without any notice, you know, they're giving out. And they openly declare, you know, you can come and take at their office. We have evidence. And the Dr. Zul, Kuala Selangor, we are already also going for petition. I think the only one in Selangor is Kuala Selangor Parliament. And it's very unfortunate because he's a very good assemblyman. He's done well in the area. And now they are still, you know what the people of Kuala Selangor is doing now? They are still going to see him. Every day they say, you are still our assemblyman, you are still our member of parliament until we resolve this petition. You know they're doing so he's still like a member of parliament now, attending to their problem. Okay, so we do that. Actually, we already have considered, because you know, you see the Senate, they normally go by terms. They don't follow the they don't follow this Dewan Rakyat or the assembly because they have the tenure. You know. If you go in for 3 years, then after 3 years, only you can replace. So far Selangor got 2 there, and I think by early next year only they will finish their terms. Then only we can replace with somebody else. Thank you very much. I think that's all we hand back over this to Datuk Seri.
I'm supposed to meet the Consul General Datuk Dr. Muhammad Rahmis Yahya. He came here for a short while, just say hello to him, and then he just left. Otherwise, we could have the consular here. But nevertheless, I just received an SMS from the New Straits Times. The New Straits Times was reporting that since I was tweeting back to Malaysia that I'm in Adelaide, I'm in Perth, and in Melbourne, and the news spun by UMNO's blogger. Let me just read to you that this reporter from the New Straits Times, the name of Jaspal, I know him very well, he said, I need your favor to answer an allegation made by the flyingcakeblogspot.com. Flyingcakeblogspot.com is a prominent UMNO blogger. And you know what he says? I need your favor to answer an allegation made by the flyingcakeblogspot.com in his posting on July the 6th that you had filed a lawsuit in Australia to annul the 13th general elections results. The blogger had claimed that you had said this to a group of Malaysians in Adelaide recently. Is the allegation correct? Did you file a case in Australian court to nullify GE 13 results? So I might be handcuffed when I arrive in KLIA. That's a spinning that they're doing now. Right, brothers, I have the account number that somebody requested. The account is called Perak Care, and we have opened it in Maybank Ipoh, and the number for your record is, I just quote there, 558-015-001-720. I repeat, 558-015.
We can email it.
Yeah, later on, okay.
If you're okay with it, we can email it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. In the interest of time, we are about to wrap up. We'll finish up the formal session today. I think we'll have a short while after this, just meet and greet, and then we can call it a day. So thank you very much for coming to Melbourne. I hope Australia has lived up to your hopes and expectations. And thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you again.
And thanks for your contribution as well. Thank you so much. It means so much to us and the people of Perak. Thank you.